What's up, everyone? All right, so here we are, Monday morning, April 1st. It's a brand new month. I'm excited about that, and I'm gonna finish the day up $1,500. So green is good. Today I traded two stocks, both beginning with a P, PULM and PHAS. Made about 2,100 on PULM and lost about 600 on PHAS. Both of them pretty volatile. PULM had a lot more volume, and I could have kept trading it and being a little more aggressive, but I started to feel like I was pushing my luck and over trading a little bit. And I was like, you know what? First day of the month, let's just book a green day, come back at it tomorrow. And so that's what I'm doing. So really happy to start the month with a green trade. Put up all my broker statements for the month of March, finished the month down right around $21,000, which is disappointing. It's the first red month in over a year. 2018 I had one red month. 2017 I had two red months. So here in 2019 I already have one red month, but you know, at the same time I'm still up over $110,000 on the year. And you know, these are just part of the things that come with trading. It's, you know, sometimes a couple steps forward, a couple steps back, got to readjust, slow down. And, you know, I'm just trying to get my groove back. So, you know, here we have another green day. Finished last week, you know, back up in the green, and green here Monday morning. Feels good. So, you know, goal $1,500, $2,000 a day. I can live with that. All right, so enjoy the recap. As usual, any questions, any comments, leave them below. I'll come back through and answer them this afternoon. And I'll see you guys tomorrow morning, 9:15 for pre-market analysis. All right, everyone. So we're going to do our midday market recap. I'm going to finish the morning here up $1,505.43, which is pretty good. The bulk of those profits came on PULM, which is currently up 108%. Pretty impressive and sort of unexpected. It's on 27 million shares of volume. I could have been a little more aggressive on it, and we'll go back and look at those the trades that I took, but you know, I really this month just starting green is important to me. Not swinging for the fences, just taking a couple of low risk trades, and definitely did that on PULM. PHAS, I took a couple trades on this one as well, and you can see this is a big move from 10 all the way up to just under 13 bucks. But I ended up losing $686 on it. The spreads were pretty big. Even right now, it's 1140 by 1160, so a 20-cent spread. And I wasn't able to really sell on the ask, and ended up hitting the bid and taking losses on the trades that I took. So, you know, that's okay. It was worth a try. I just was in a little too high on both stabs, and then, you know, whatever, didn't make a lot or do super well on it. But looking at PULM, you know, this one, we've traded it before. It's not the first time we've traded it. It does have a history of being a former runner, which is always good. It was on the gap scanner this morning, so we'll pull back the gap scanner here. We'll look at this for 9:25 a.m. And what you'll see is that PULM was our third leading gapper. Our first gapper was ADXS. I know John came in this morning, traded ADXS, made $1,500 and was gone by like 9:45. Traded for 15 minutes. I missed ADXS. And here's the thing that I talked about last week. After having several days of buying gap and go stocks, you know, basically right at this kind of position and having them just get slammed back down and taking big losses, I was like, I'm not jumping into this right out of the gates. I'm just going to watch it. And right out of the gates, it pops up to 950. And I'm like, nope, not touching it. It drops to 8.91. It drops 60 cents. And I was like, that's right. That's why I left it alone. And then it rips back up to 9.50. And I was like, no, I'm not getting faked out. And then it squeezes up to 10. And I was like, well, I could get in here at 9.93, but that's risky. This thing was just at 8.93. So I passed on it, and it squeezed up to 10.24. And at this point, I was like, well, I really can't chase it. And, you know, so I missed this little opportunity here, but I don't regret not trading it because I followed the rules that I had set for myself for this week and for right now, which was to not aggressively trade a gapper right out of the gates. So ADXS, I know some of you guys did well on it, buying this sort of micro red to green pullback, but I missed it, and then, it is what it is. So no trades on that, but PULM was the second one on the watch list. And this one ended up giving us a couple of opportunities here. A little bit sluggish to start the day. It had a pre-market high of $1.77. And the place that I ended up jumping in it was right here on this nice little 1 minute pullback. You see how it has that high there of 69, the pullback, and then from 65, I jumped in it and it pops up to a high of 77. Well, it's only 12 cents of profit. If I had gotten the bottom to the top, and I didn't get the full, bottom to the top of the move, we'll go back up here in my orders. I got in at 65, 66, and 67 and sold at 72, 71, 71. So on that first trade, really, and this is a lower price stock, which is why I felt comfortable taking 9,000 shares. This one, it was like a couple $100. It pulls back a little bit here, micro pullback, high of 77. I end up jumping back in for the break of 77, in at 76, 77, selling at 83, 84. We hit a high there of 86. And then it pops up to 88. It pulls back again right here. Another little scalp opportunity up to the high of 90. So just kind of actively trading it back in at 79, adding at 85. That was an accident. I had typed 700 shares and then had to change it back to 3,000. Whatever. So a little scalp there. I guess stopped out, lost a little bit on that one. And then we had PHAS. So I'll just, to keep that chart the way it is, I'll pull PHS up on a different window here. Let's see. All right, so PHAS here, it was on our scanner as a circuit breaker halt. Okay, so it got halted. It resumed. It dips down for a second, and I jumped in anticipating that it would break over $12 and continue going higher. It did not, and I stopped out right here for about an $800 loss. And I was like, all right, well, keeping losses tight, that's the thing to do. Keep it on watch. It ended up breaking right here. I got back in on this pullback, ended up making like $200. It goes higher. I got back in for the break of 13. I think it was like right here, and that one didn't work, and I lost on that one. So overall, this one was just kind of choppy. It was difficult to trade, not a lot of volume. So, whatever, down 600 plus $686 on that one. But managed risk fairly well, which I'm happy with. I didn't go super big on position sizes. 3,000 shares was my biggest size. So then back to PULM. It's grinding higher. A little bit of consolidation here on the 1 minute. You can see it kind of going sideways. It finally pops over this 190 level and hits a high of 205. As it broke that level, I jumped right in at 97, anticipating the break of 2, and sold it at 203. But you can see this is a stock where, trading 9,000 shares, I'm really only getting 5 cents here, 4 cents there. Small wins. It hits 210, goes sideways. I get back in right here for the next break of 210. On that one, I got in at, that was a good trade. Let's see, where was that? Right here, I'm back in it at 205, 205, 206, and sold for about 10 cents of profit, scalping that break right there. And that, if we go onto the 5-minute chart, was right here. No, sorry. That was right, where was that? It was right here. And then it goes up to 23. I did one final trade right up here around 24. It didn't work. And so then I was like, I don't know, maybe I should just leave this one alone. I'm up $1,500. And then I didn't take this trade. That's just the luck of the draw. That nice final break there over 25, squeezed right up to 35.40, and then right up here to a high of $3. So, it's funny because it felt in this whole area here that it was such a struggle, and it felt a bit extended. At this point, it was a bit extended, and we had a couple false breakouts here, and I was just like, man, this thing has been tough. You've got the 233 daily resistance level that we're coming up to, and so I just was like, I don't know, I'm just going to leave it alone. Seems like volume is declining on it anyways, getting back down to low volume, and then, off it goes, and so again, I'm not going to regret that really too much. Today's a green day. I'm happy with the green day. Especially after last month, I just want to start this month with a couple of green trades. So let's see. So I'll leave that there. So there's my P&L here today, $1,500. A little bit below my $2,000 daily goal, but it's nothing to get bent out of shape about. There's no reason to force it. And I certainly wasn't going to chase this up at $3. That just would have been, really risky. And of course, this may end up giving more opportunities today and going higher, but, the way I prioritize my time, it makes the most sense for me to trade the first 2 hours of the day, and the rest of the day I spend working with students, working on our classes, and doing the things for those of you guys who are at the very beginning of your journey. Now, would I make more money trading if I focus the rest of the day on, actively trading stocks like this? Sure, of course I would, but realistically, you have to make that decision at some point about prioritizing, whether it's to spend more time with your family or it's to focus on a second business that you have, whatever the case may be. So I trade the first 2 hours, and I'll try to get as much as I can during those windows of time. So I did go ahead and upload my broker statements for for March 2019. So I'll pull these up here, and we'll just go over those real quick. Again, March was not a good month for me. In fact, it was the worst month in over a year of trading. Last red month was February 2018. So, having my first red month in over a year. 2017, I had 2 red months. So it's not uncommon for me to have red months. 2016, I didn't have any red months. 2015, I had red months. So we'll go back down here to the very bottom. So 2019 earnings or broker statements. And you'll be able to see here the statements that are posted. So at the end of the month, I sat $946,000 of total profit on the $583 challenge, which was, obviously really good, but a little bit of a setback, and up $111,000 for 2019. So we'll go down here to February. February ended down $21,000. Interestingly, my accuracy was still good. It was 69%. Accuracy wasn't the problem. The problem was basically I only had small winners and I had a couple really big losers. So I had a negative profit-loss ratio. Statement here for my main account and statement there for the IRA account. Or actually, I think those are reversed. Those are reversed. I gotta go switch them. But anyways, I'll do that later. So the reports view here, if we look just at the month of March, 3/31/2019, filter, just to kind of zoom in on this a little bit. Gross profit, but net profit after commissions. Commissions being on the high side, mostly because I traded a lot of volume. I think one of the things that sometimes happens when you start to dig yourself a hole is to try to dig yourself out, you start expending more and more energy, which is in the form of trading more and more actively, taking more and more trades. I took a total of 226 trades in the month, which is definitely more than average. But like I said, accuracy 69%. So this accuracy, we go back to 2016 and just look at 3 years of time. The accuracy is actually was a little above average, if anything. So, going back here to 2019, but over the long haul, my average winners are about 1,000 and my average losers are about 1,000. So the big difference in this March was that my average winners were about 50% smaller and my average losers were about 50% bigger. And that is obviously a very difficult type of metric to come out ahead with. So, finished the month down. Obviously, the biggest loss, a $19,000 loss. That was, brutal. The largest gain, only $5,800. So, that just wasn't enough. Lots of small winners, but nothing really big. Biggest win, average winners only $560. Average losers $1,600. So this is, no doubt. I'm not going to say that this was a good month. It wasn't a good month. It was a month where, I obviously finished red, and I just kept getting hit with big losses. Now, part of I would say the biggest drawback or the biggest flaw to my strategy, and of course, saying flaw is, relative to the fact that this is a strategy that does produce a lot of profit. It's over $1 million right there. But the biggest flaw is that I do occasionally have big losses, and that my profit loss ratio generally, for me, is only about 1-to-1. That's the biggest flaw, and this is a reflection, I would say, of my personality. I'm afraid of risk, and that makes being a day trader pretty tough because we take risk every day. But I really am afraid of risk. I hate losing money. And so what I end up doing is, when I get into a trade, as soon as I'm up a little bit, I sell half. And then if it ends up continuing higher, my profits are going to be smaller. And then I sell another half. And then I sell another half. And so meanwhile, let's say the stock is going up like this, my profits are not going up like that. My profits are only going up like this because I sell half so early, and then I sell another half and another half. On the flip side, if I get into something that drops down right away, I'm not often able to sell the whole thing quick enough, and so I end up having, a bigger loss. And so in total, my average winners and average losers are about 50-50, or about the same. They're even. So, and this is in contrast to someone like Mike, who has a terrific profit loss ratio. I mean, it's really impressive that he's got such a strong profit loss ratio. I think it's closer to 3-to-1. His average winners being 3 times larger than his average losers. And then of course at the end of the year, how much I make versus how much Mike makes, is sort of a factor of how many shares you're able to buy and how frequently you trade. And I trade much more frequently than Mike. And that's partly because my quality standard is lower, not looking for kind of these really like maybe home run type of moves, but taking lots of these smaller trades. And so, at the end of the day, it's to each your own. But for me, I've had so many trades where if I didn't take the profit right here and then it comes right back down, I end up actually being break even on a trade, or even worse, I end up being red on a trade that I actually had profit on. So my fear of, losing profit is not just totally imaginary. It's not an imaginary fear. It's a very real fear based on the fact that, especially with small cap stocks, that happens a lot. We see so much volatility where we'll see these types of stocks. Let's see, let me pull up my chart again. We'll see these types of stocks, like this, or, look at ADXS. ADXS, this is one where if you didn't take your profit right here when it was above $10, well, it's back at $7 right now. These types of stocks, they can reverse, and they can hurt and hit you so hard. You see that happen a couple times and you're like, nope, as soon as it's up here at $10, I'm taking profit. Well, what happens when this stock ends up going, to 12 and then 13 and 14, which sometimes they do. You're the one who's like, man, I sold this whole thing at $10. What's wrong with me? It's so frustrating, but you follow, the rules, and based on the knowledge that a good percentage of the time, these will just go ahead and retrace the whole move. And if you don't take the profit, you've got nothing. And so I've trained myself to sell half really quickly. And the result of that is on a good month having a profit loss ratio that is closer to 1-to-1. Now, at the beginning of my small account challenge, January 1st, to February 1st, 2017, I was holding the winners a little bit longer, and I had really tight stops. Actually, let's see. No, actually I ended up having that one loss, and that one loss dragged it all down. Let's go down to 128. So before that loss, I guess it was better. Yeah, so I had one loss that, really adversely affected the profit loss ratio. But, let's see. Let's look at a good month. 2017, I think November of 2017 was a really good month for me. So let's just look at November, for instance. Yeah, November I made $80,000. $80,000. But the average winners, average losers were the same, right? The profit loss ratio, or the percentage of success, was basically the same. So the only thing different really on this month was that, versus like this month here, 1-to-1 profit loss ratio. The profit loss ratio was better. And obviously I had a couple of trades in there that ended up, being big winners. Let's look at December of 2017. December, I also made right around $80,000. 68% accuracy. This is a month where the profit loss ratio was a little bit better. The losers were a little smaller and the winners were a little bigger. And in fact, on this month, the losers were half of what they were on average versus the month before, only 800 versus 1,500. But the winners were a little bit smaller as well. So, this is kind of what we talk about with the profit trifecta. Being a successful trader is all about battling your, we've got the profit trifecta here, and you've got your percentage of success. You've got your consistency, which is at, how many weeks are you green? So, your goal is to be green 4 weeks out of the month. And then you've got your percentage of success. Your goal is 70%, so you're doing that. And then you've got your profit loss ratio, over here on this side, and the goal is to be at least at 1-to-1, and if you can be at 2-to-1 or 1.5-to-1, that's always better. But that's what you struggle with. And these three metrics, the profit trifecta, these are what create the metrics of either a profitable trader or a losing trader. And every single one of you have your metrics from last month. Whether or not you're aware of them, I'm not sure, but you all have metrics for last month of how you traded. Your accuracy, percentage of success, profit loss ratio, and those numbers can tell you a lot about what's working, what's not working with your strategy. So, we go back in here to the month of March, and if I was looking at a student's performance, this was not my own, but a student, and I looked at this, I would say, you've got a major problem here. On the one hand, I'd be like, your accuracy is fantastic. I couldn't really ask for much more. This is really good accuracy at 70%. And doesn't it suck that you're 70% right and you're still losing money? And that's because your profit loss ratio is so bad. So I would say, what's going on with this profit loss ratio that's allowed it to get this bad? What happened on this big trade? Well, why don't we, look at, or we look at the instrument volume or the instrument column, and what happened on these top 5 biggest losers. ESTR, this one I jumped into thinking it was going to go into a halt, and I bought it like literally at high a day. I didn't wait for a pullback. GSB, I bought that thing extremely high thinking it was going to go into a halt, and it didn't. SXTC was a gap and go trade, gapping up with no news that I bought, and it just dropped $1 per share. DFFN, a gap and go trade that failed and just didn't work at all. So what I could say on each of these 4 trades, 1, 2, 3, 4, which of course if I hadn't taken those 4 trades, that would have been a very, very different month. 4 trades ruined my month of March. 4 impulsive, emotional trades where I did not wait for a pullback, I just jumped right in. And those ruined my month. So what I would say is that, looking at this just through that kind of like, stepping back, you need to wait for confirmation. And if you're jumping into something without confirmation, sometimes that is going to be successful, but you can't go in with full size of 9 or 12 or 15,000 shares because you're going to get crushed. And you can see that's exactly what happened. Now, on the flip side, what happened on some of the biggest winning stocks? PLAG, BPTH, PETS, PETZ, these ones I actually don't remember as well as the biggest losers. The biggest losers, they get kind of burned into your brain. So I couldn't say for sure that I wasn't doing some of the same things on these trades that I did on these, and that, the same thing didn't work here, but it worked over here. So I couldn't say for sure that if I stopped, buying just into a squeeze, that it wouldn't also cost me some of my winners. But the first step has to be cutting the bleeding, stopping the bleeding. because this can't continue. It's just not acceptable. And so, of course, today on ADXS, I hesitated, rightfully so, because this is the same setup that I lost on SXTS and DFFN, SXTC and DFFN. And granted, this one actually had great news today. A drug that prolongs survival for metastatic prostate cancer patients. But it's still given back almost, all of the gap, despite good news. So we don't trade the news, we trade the technicals. And on this one, hesitating was the right move. And on PULM, I could have been a little more aggressive, but right now I just have to be in the mindset of slowly digging myself out of the hole. I'm at the bottom of, the sharpest drawdown that I've had in recent trading history. Where's this win-loss expectation? Let's go here. We'll bring this all the way back to 2000. Well, we'll go to 2017. I'll just show you my equity curve since the beginning of the $583 challenge, now updated through the end of last month. So sitting at about $950,000, so I've got about $50,000 between me and the $1 million goal, although I'm trying not to think about it. Profit-loss ratio is still about 1-to-1, accuracy is still about 67%, but new largest loss thanks to last month. All right, so let's go back down here, and that's what the equity curve looks like. So this was what happened in March, right there. It doesn't look that bad, all things considered. This is the journey that I've been on, all the way down here from day one. Whatever day this was. It's even hard to get the mouse on those days. This is like 600 plus days of trading, but this was the beginning of the pullback, or it started right there. I bounced up and then I dropped again with another red day right there. And this right here, as small as it looks, is the biggest pullback that I've had. This was a little bit of a pullback here. This was a little bit of a longer one here. That was a sharp one right there, but I bounced back quickly. And a small one right here. So in this challenge, I would say, and this was the first one right down there, and that right there was scary, because I gave back about $8,000, right in that window. I went from being up 35,000 or so, to being up only 16,000. I gave back a lot of profit. So these ones were actually scarier. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sort of little obstacles that I've gone through on this challenge to take less than $600 and turn it into $1 million. But what I need to do is base this out and start moving back up. And I can't allow it to keep going down. And if I kept, of course, doing the things that I was doing of jumping into stocks right off the scanners without confirmation, inevitably, well, some will work, some won't, but it just isn't something I want to keep doing. So I want to tighten up the risk. Today, I was green, towards the very end of the month from, 44 up to like 46 or something like that, 48. So recovered just under $5,000, recovered another $1,500 today, and we're just going to keep grinding back up and working towards that goal. But I have to trade the market, not this challenge. I can't trade this number right here. I have to just be trading the market that's in front of me, because that was my biggest problem as I started trading my P&L. Trying to swing for the fences because I knew I was getting close to this big spot. And this was the result. The biggest drawdown that I've had, $47,000 right there in this entire challenge. I doubled my biggest drawdown. My biggest one was $24,000 and I doubled it. Now I was doing bad right here when I was down $29,000. I had 2 days of recovery and then I had a third big red day in a row. So now I've had another 3 days of recovery, and I have to be really careful. I don't want another day like that. I need to just, keep going back up. So I want to hope that the bottom is in, the base is in, and focus on, rebuilding. And again, you don't take, any of you who are thinking about trying to take $600 and turn it into $1 million, it's not going to happen without taking risk. You have to take risk. If you don't risk it, you're not going to have, any profit. I mean, that's just the reality of this market. Now, with my personal strategy, the way I personally trade, you and I, two of us or three of us or 100 of us, we may all trade the same stock and have very different profits on it. On a stock like PULM, I guarantee you, and I know it because I saw you guys posting how much you made on it, that a lot of you guys made more on this one than I did, which is great. I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you guys got some big wins on this. This is a stock that I just trade a little bit more conservatively. PHAS, some of you guys may be red on it more than me because you held it a little longer hoping it might do something like this. So all of our P&Ls are going to be a little bit different, and it's based on, our personal risk tolerance, our mental game, where we're at on the week, the month, the year. All these things factor in to the way we trade these stocks. So, the strategy that I'm teaching you is not to just copy me. Ultimately, that's never going to work even if you actually wanted to. The strategy that I teach is how to understand the behavior of these stocks, and then you trade them the way that feels right for you. And that might mean taking more risk than me. It might mean taking less risk than me. And so for people who, might say, well, Ross, why should I learn from you? You're someone who's, down $21,000 last month. I think that there's certainly an opportunity to learn from that loss. I think that there's, very clearly a lot of students who did much better than me last month because they weren't swinging for the fences the way I was. They weren't fixated on $1 million goal the way I was. And the end result was very different. Certainly John did much better than me last month. I know a lot of you guys did. So, it's one of those things where as hard as you might try not to let those external, sort of things come in and impact your trading, at the end of the day, it can be very difficult to prevent that. So, all that is to say that it's the beginning of April, it's a new month, and we're continuing to see momentum, which is awesome. PULM, great momentum today, and even though I didn't make as much on it as maybe I could have, we saw some really good opportunities right out of the strategies that we teach. First pullback, second pullback, third pullback, consolidation here, breakout, from $1.50 to $3, at 100% in one day. So a lot of opportunity there. And we're going to just keep focusing on these types of stocks. I'm, going to try as much as I can not to really think about or even look at my P&L on the month. Ultimately, what I would really love is that I just look back and I'm like, whoa, yesterday I crossed the $1 million mark. That I stopped thinking about it to the point that it's going to happen just on its own. Ultimately, that's much easier said than done because every day I'm talking about my P&L, I'm talking about where I'm at on the week or on the month, and I don't know that I can actually pull that out of my mind 100%, but I'd like to try to. ADXS, yes, it had the higher float. However, it had just had a reverse split. And so the adjusted float was actually lower. So that's why I knew that it would trade much more volatile than a 68 million share float. All right, everyone. So as usual, I'll see you guys first thing tomorrow morning around 9:15 for pre-market analysis. And hopefully we can make a little bit of money for the second day of April. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow. If you're still watching, you must have really enjoyed that video. So why not subscribe and get email alerts anytime I upload new content? Remember, when you subscribe, you become a member of the Warrior Trading family.